I want to begin today with a simple but powerful idea. Transformation doesn't have to take forever. In fact, science is showing us that in just 12 hours, your body and your life can start changing in ways you never imagined. Absolutely. Here's a 700-word expansion of Goo Keynote. Cellular renewal begins within hours. View delivered in the style of DrWilliamLi without any ending or concluding sentences. When we think about transformation, real lasting biological transformation, we often imagine that it takes weeks, months, or even years, that the body is slow to react, and that change is something we wait for, pray for, or struggle toward over long stretches of time. But science is proving something quite different, and honestly quite exciting. Change, deep biological change, can begin much sooner than we think. In fact, your cells, the very building blocks of your body, it can begin to renew themselves in as little as 12 hours. Let's think about this for a moment. Every day, trillions of cells in your body are working around the clock to keep you alive. These cells aren't static. They're dynamic. They respond to signals, they communicate with each other, and they adapt. What's incredible is that this cellular machinery doesn't drift forward passively. It listens closely to what you do. What you eat, how you move, how you rest, what you think, all of these behaviors send signals that your cells respond to. And here's the breakthrough: those responses can begin in a matter of hours, not days. One of the most remarkable processes that kicks into gear quickly is something called DNA repair. Your DNA, the genetic code in every cell, is constantly under attack by pollution, by poor nutrition, by stress, and even by natural internal processes. But your body is equipped with powerful repair systems that can fix DNA damage. Studies have shown that certain behaviors, such as intermittent fasting, consuming polyphenol-rich foods like berries or green tea, or even getting high-quality sleep, can activate DNA repair enzymes in as little as 8 to 12 hours. That means within half a day of changing your input, your cells are already correcting the damage from the past. Another form of renewal is mitochondrial biogenesis. Mitochondria are the energy powerhouses of your cells, and when they become damaged or inefficient, you feel it. Fatigue, brain fog, and even chronic disease are linked to mitochondrial dysfunction. But guess what? Mitochondria don't just sit there and degrade, they can regenerate. When your body senses the right kind of stress, like the mild stress from fasting, exercise, or thermal exposure, it responds by creating new, more efficient mitochondria. And research has shown that mitochondrial biogenesis can begin within 12 hours of metabolic shift. We also see rapid renewal in the immune system. Think about this. Your immune cells are not fixed in number or function. They are in a constant cycle of turnover and education. In fact, T cells, which are key fighters in your immune defense, it can change their activity and even regenerate after brief periods of metabolic rest, such as short-term fasting or switch to anti-inflammatory foods. Within 12 hours of implementing those changes, immune signaling molecules like cytokines can shift dramatically and inflammation markers begin to decline. This means your immune system starts getting stronger, not weeks later, but by the time you wake up the next morning. Then there's the endothelial lining, the then layer of cells that lines your blood vessels. These cells are responsible for keeping your arteries flexible, controlling blood pressure, and ensuring smooth blood flow. They're also incredibly sensitive to diet, stress, and sleep. Foods rich in nitric oxide boosters like beets, arugula, or dark chocolate can actually improve endothelial function within 12 hours. Clinical studies have shown that after a single meal rich in healthy fats, polyphenols, and antioxidants, endothelial function improves significantly, meaning your cardiovascular system is responding in real time. Even in the brain, we see cellular changes in tight timeframes. Neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons, might take longer to fully manifest, but the early cellular signals, the genetic switches that control brain plasticity and neuron repair, begin to activate within hours of exercise, mindfulness, and nutritional changes. For example, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a key protein that supports brain cell health and growth, can spike after just one session of aerobic movement or deep meditation. That means the brain is starting its own renewal process faster than we once thought possible. This all tells us something profound. The body is not waiting. It is not passive. It's dynamic, responsive, and deeply intelligent. And when we shift our behaviors, whether through fasting, diet, movement, or mindset, the body doesn't delay its response. It listens immediately. Cellular repair, immune rebalancing, vascular improvement, energy renewal, these are not long-term goals only. They are processes that begin to activate within you, often without you even feeling them at first. But they are very real and they are measurable. It only takes 12 hours for the shift to start. Certainly. Here's a 700-word expansion of Uki, and inflammation can start to decrease in just 12 hours, written in the style of DrWilliamLi and following your instructions. No ending sentences and no headings. Our inflammation is one of the body's most misunderstood processes. For years, it was seen purely as a negative, a source of pain, swelling, disease. But the truth is more nuanced. Inflammation, at its core, is a defense mechanism. It's how your body responds to injury, infection, and imbalance. It's the biological equivalent of calling in the troops to repair and protect. But just like any defense system, when it becomes overactive or misdirected, it begins to cause more harm than good. Chronic inflammation is now recognized as a root cause of nearly every major chronic disease: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, neurodegeneration, and even depression. What we're now learning through clinical research is both startling and empowering. You don't need weeks or wait weeks or months to begin turning the tide against inflammation. You can start lowering inflammation in your body in as little as 12 hours. That's not an exaggeration. That's biology. And the shift begins the moment you change what your body is exposed to. let's look at food, and the most powerful and immediate modulator of inflammation. When you consume a meal that is rich in processed sugars, refined carbs, unhealthy fats, and additives, the gut responds with a burst of inflammatory signaling. Molecules like interleukin 6, IL-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha TNF rise quickly. These molecules don't just stay in the gut, they travel through the bloodstream, affecting your heart, brain, liver, and immune cells. But when you switch that meal for something rich in anti-inflammatory compounds, olive oil, leafy greens, fatty fish, turmeric, berries, you send an entirely different signal. Clinical studies show that inflammatory markers begin to decline just hours after consuming a single anti-inflammatory meal. It's not just about what you eat, it's also about what you don't eat. Fasting, even for short periods, triggers a powerful internal shift. When your body isn't digesting food, it diverts its energy toward repair. One of the key effects of short-term fasting is the suppression of inflammatory pathways. A 12-hour fast, something as stopping dinner at 7 p.m. and waiting until 7 to eat again, has been shown to reduce levels of circulating inflammatory mediators and improve insulin sensitivity. This isn't just theory. Inflammatory molecules like C-reactive protein CRP begin to drop. That's your body responding almost immediately to the absence of metabolic stress. Stress itself is a major driver of inflammation. If psychological stress activates the hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis, leading to the release of cortisol and other hormones that, when sustained, trigger chronic inflammation. But just as the body ramps up inflammation in response to stress, it also downshifts inflammation in response to calm. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, and even spending time in nature can lower stress hormones and inflammation-related gene expression. In fact, measurable reductions in inflammatory gene activity have been observed within hours of mindfulness practice. That means even a single session of focused breathing or gratitude can begin altering your biological response to stress and inflammation. Movement is another fast-acting anti-inflammatory tool. You might think you need to run for miles or lift heavy weights for weeks to see benefits, but science says otherwise. Moderate exercise, even a 20-minute walk, can lead to a significant decrease in inflammatory markers. One study found that just one session of moderate physical activity triggered an anti-inflammatory cellular response that lasted for hours. Your muscles, when contracted, release a molecule called L10, an anti-inflammatory cytokine that helps rebalance immune signaling. This means your body is not only burning energy, but also recalibrating inflammation with each step you take. Sleep, often overlooked, is one of the most critical regulators of inflammation. Even a single night of poor sleep can raise levels of inflammatory cytokines, while one night of restorative sleep can help bring them down. The body uses the overnight fasting window and rest period to perform cellular housekeeping, clearing out waste, repairing damaged tissue, and dampening inflammatory signals. People who follow a consistent sleep-wake cycle and allow their bodies adequate nighttime rest show lower levels of systemic inflammation compared to those who don't. And the benefits don't take weeks to appear, they can begin after just one night of real rest. The gut plays a central role in inflammation, and it too responds rapidly to change. When you shift your diet to support the microbiome, introducing fiber-rich plants, fermented foods, and prebiotic, your gut bacteria begin to shift. Some species begin to bloom, others decline. And as the microbiome changes, so does the level of inflammation throughout the body. Gut microbes produce metabolites like short-chain fatty acids, which can directly calm inflammation. Studies show that changes in the gut microbiota composition can occur within 12 hours of dietary modification. That's how fast the gut-brain immune axis responds to what you feed it. Certainly. Here's a 700-word expansion of Keynote 3, Fasting Powerful Healing Responses W, written in the tone and style of DrWilliamLi without any ending sentences or headings as you requested. Our fasting is one of the oldest healing practices known to humanity. For centuries, cultures around the world have used periods of intentional fasting not just for spiritual clarity, but for physical renewal. Today, modern science is catching up with what ancient wisdom already understood. Fasting, even for short durations, triggers profound healing responses in the body. And what's truly remarkable is how quickly these changes begin. You don't need to fast for days or weeks. Research shows that in just 12 hours without food, your body begins to activate a series of regenerative processes that affect everything from your metabolism to your immune system to the way your cells repair themselves. When you eat, your body spends several hours in what's called the fed state, digesting, absorbing, and storing energy. During this time, insulin levels are elevated, directing glucose into your cells for immediate use or storage. But after about 8 to 12-hour food, insulin levels drop and your body transitions into a fasted state. This shift marks the beginning of metabolic flexibility, the ability of your body to switch from glucose for energy to burning stored fat. As fatty acids are mobilized, they're converted into ketone bodies, which serve as an efficient fuel source for the brain and other organs. Ketones are more than just energy substrates. They act as signaling molecules that trigger cellular adaptations. Within this 12-hour window, ketones begin to activate genes associated with stress resistance, antigen defense, and cellular repair. One of the most critical processes that gets turned on during early fasting is autophagy. This is the body's internal recycling system, a natural, evolutionarily conserved mechanism in which cells break down and remove damaged components, misfolded proteins, and dysfunctional organelles. Autophagy helps protect against neurodegeneration, cancer, and metabolic diseases. What's fascinating is that the cleansing process doesn't require prolonged deprivation. The studies have shown that autophagy can be initiated after 12 hours of fasting, especially when combined with other supportive behaviors like light physical activity or polyphenol-rich nutrition. Another powerful effect of fasting in this early window is the modulation of inflammation. Inflammatory cytokines, such as interleukin-6 and TF-alpha, begin to decrease while anti-inflammatory molecules increase. Fasting helps suppress the overactivity of the immune system, giving it a chance to reset and recalibrate. This has implications for autoimmune conditions, chronic inflammatory diseases, and even mental health, as IM plays a key role in disorders like depression and anxiety. Within the first 12 hours of fasting, immune cells like monocytes begin to shift their activity from a pro-inflammatory to a more regulatory balanced state. The gut also responds rapidly to fasting. When food is withheld, the gut lining has a chance to rest and repair. The mucosal barrier strengthens, permeability decreases, and the risk of leaky gut syndrome diminishes. Moreover, certain gut microbes that thrive on sugar and processed foods begin to decline, while beneficial bacteria associated with metabolic health start to flourish. This change in the microbiome begins within hours entering a fasted state, reinforcing the gut's role as a central hub for health. Fasting impacts hormones in surprisingly fast ways as well. Growth hormone secretion increases significantly, supporting fat metabolism and the preservation of lean muscle mass. At the same time, fasting improves insulin sensitivity. Your body becomes more efficient at using the insulin it produces, lowering the risk of insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Even short-term fasting has been shown to produce measurable improvements in glucose control and hormonal balance. With 12 hours, the cardiovascular system also benefits quickly. As insulin and blood sugar levels normalize, endothelial function improves, the blood vessels become more responsive, blood pressure begins to regulate, and oxidative stress is reduced. These changes begin in the early phases of fasting, reducing the burden on the heart and improving circulation throughout the body and the brain. Fasting enhances clarity and focus. The ketones produced during fasting are not just a clean energy source. They also stimulate the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BNF. This molecule supports neuroplasticity, learning, and memory. Fasting increases the expression of genes involved in neuron survival and stress adaptation, essentially putting the brain into a state of resilience. These benefits begin within the first 12 hours, long before prolonged fasts or even our genes begin to respond quickly to fasting. Epigenetic changes, those that influence how genes are expressed without altering the DNA sequence, can be detected within this short window. Fasting regulates the activity of genes related to aging, inflammation, metabolism, and cellular repair. These genetic shifts represent one of the most fundamental ways fasting influences long-term health, and they begin not in days, but in hours. Fasting is not just a period of doing nothing. It's a period of intense biological activity beneath the surface. Hormones are balancing, cells are cleaning house, inflammation is cooling down, and systems across the body are shifting into a mode of protection and renewal. What appears to be a pause from eating is actually an acceleration of healing, and the first signs of that transformation begin as early as 12 hours in. Here's a 7-word expansion of word keynote 4. Your gut microbiome responds rapidly to lifestyle changes, written in the tone and style of DrWilliamLi, without any headings or ending sentences, as requested. Inside your body, there's a vast and dynamic universe of microscopic life. Trillions of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microorganisms that live primarily in your gut. Collectively, they're known as the gut microbiome. Far from being passive passengers, these microbes play an active role in nearly every aspect of health, from digestion and metabolism to immunity, mood, and even brain function. For years, it was assumed that the microbiome was relatively stable and slow to change, requiring long diet or medication interventions to shift its composition. But emerging research tells a very different story. Your gut microbiome is incredibly sensitive, highly adaptive, and capable of responding to lifestyle changes within hours. What you eat, how you sleep, the stress you carry, the air you breathe. These factors all influence your gut microbes. One of the most striking findings in microbiome science is just how fast diet can shift the balance of bacteria in the gut. In controlled clinical studies, participants who switched from a high-fat, low-fiber Western-style diet to a fiber-rich, plant-based diet showed measurable changes in their gut bacteria composition in less than 24 hours. Even within a 12 window, certain microbial species begin to decline, while others bloom in response to the new environment being created in the digestive tract. When you consume fiber foods such as leafy greens, beans, seeds, and whole grains, you're not just feeding yourself, you're feeding your gut microbes. These beneficial bacteria ferment dietary fibers into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, acetate, and propionate. These compounds serve as critical messengers between your gut and the rest of your body. They reduce inflammation, protect the lining of your intestines, modulate immune response, and even influence how your genes express themselves. When a person makes the shift from processed foods to whole, natural ingredients, their microbes respond almost immediately by increasing production of these healing metabolites. The opposite is also true. Processed foods, high in sugar, artificial additives, and unhealthy fats feed harmful bacteria that promote inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. These microbes produce endotoxins, which can damage the intestinal barrier and allow bacterial fragments to enter the bloodstream. condition known as metabolic endotoxemia. But the good news is that this process is reversible and it begins quickly. Removing ultra-processed foods from your diet and replacing them with nutrient-dense, microbe-friendly options can shift the balance of flora in your favor within a matter of hours. The good brain axis is another area where rapid microbiome shifts can make a difference. This is the two-way communication system between your gut and your brain involving neural, hormonal, and immune pathways. The microbes in your gut produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, which influence mood, stress response, and cognitive function. When you alter your diet or reduce stress, the microbial populations that support positive mental health begin to grow. Researchers have observed reductions in anxiety like behavior and stress hormones in people who consumed fermented foods or probiotic-rich meals over short periods. Even after a single day, sleep also plays a major role in shaping your microbiome, and the response is swift. Disrupted sleep cycles, whether from shift work, insomnia, or irregular habits, can disturb microbial balance, increasing the presence of bacteria associated with inflammation and metabolic diseases. However, even one night of consistent, restorative sleep can begin to normalize these patterns. Studies show that the diversity and stability of the microbiome improve when sleep is regulated, highlighting the importance of circadian rhythm in gut health. This is a feedback loop. Your microbes help you sleep better, and good sleeps your microbes thrive. Stress reduction techniques also prompt immediate shifts in the microbiome. Chronic stress is a known disruptor of gut flora, increasing harmful bacteria and weakening the intestinal barrier. But when stress is reduced through practices like meditation, deep breathing, or mindful movement, microbial populations associated with calm and resilience start to increase. The changes in gut motility, enzyme secretion, and pH balance triggered by relaxation techniques all create a more favorable environment for beneficial microbes to take hold. These changes don't take weeks. They can begin with a single session of deep relaxation or even a short walk in nature. Antibiotic use is well known for disrupting the gut microbiome, but we now understand that even everyday chemicals, preservatives, emulsifiers, pesticides can have a similar impact. Avoiding exposure to these substances, even briefly, can begin to reduce their negative effects. Switching to organic produce, filtering your water, and limiting processed food intake all contribute to a healthier microbial environment, and the gut responds far more quickly than once thought. The microbial community adjusts its gene expression in real time, adapting to the inputs it receives from the environment. Hydration is another often overlooked but immediate microbial health. Proper water intake helps maintain the mucosal lining of the gut, facilitates the transport of nutrients, and supports microbial metabolism. Dehydration can lead to sluggish digestion, dysbiosis, and reduced microbial diversity, but rehydrating, especially with mineral-rich water, can begin restoring microbial function in hours. The beneficial bacteria that thrive in a well-hydrated environment multiply more easily and supports communication between the gut and the immune system, and the microbiome is not a distant or passive entity. It's constantly interacting with your lifestyle choices, responding to what you feel and what you consume. The changes don't wait for weeks to emerge. They begin within hours, silently influencing systems throughout your body. Certainly, here's a 7-word expansion of word. Keynote 5. Mindset can be reset in less than a day, written in the voice and tone of Dr. William Lim without any headings or ending sentences. As you're requesting, we often talk about mindset as though it's fixed, a personality trait, an identity, a stable psychological fingerprint that takes years to shape and even longer to change. But neuroscience paints a very different picture. The human brain is remarkably plastic, capable of reorganizing its structure and function in response to thought, behavior, and experience. What's more surprising is how quickly this can happen. A reset in mindset doesn't require a 30-day challenge or a 10-year plan. Under the right conditions, the brain can begin to shift in as little as 12 hours. A mindset isn't just a vague idea. It's a set of neural patterns. It's how your brain filters information, interprets events, and signals your body to respond. Whether you view a challenge as a threat or an opportunity, whether you perceive failure as the end or the beginning, these interpretations are shaped by the neurochemical environment in your brain, and that environment can change rapidly in response to thought, behavior, and even subtle shifts in intention. One of the fastest ways to begin a mindset shift is through movement. Physical activity, even a single session of moderate aerobic exercise, has been shown to increase levels of brain neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF supports the new neurons, enhances synaptic plasticity, and improves mood and cognitive clarity. Within 1 hour of exercise, cortisol levels can decrease, dopamine and serotonin can increase, and the neural pathways responsible for motivation and focus become more active. These aren't small changes. They represent a neurochemical reset that influences how you think, feel, and perceive the world. Mindfulness practices such as deep breathing, meditation, or focused attention exercises also create rapid shifts in brain activity. When you spend even 10 to 15 minutes in a mindful state, areas of the brain associated with stress and fear, such as the amygdala, become less active, while regions linked to rational thinking and emotional regulation, such as the prefrontal cortex, become more engaged. Brain scans show that within hours of practicing mindfulness, patterns of connectivity in the brain begin to rewire. This translates into a more grounded, less reactive mindset that is better equipped to handle uncertainty and challenge. Gratitude is another fast-acting cognitive tool. Writing down or simply reflecting on a few things you're grateful for can alter your emotional state within minutes. Studies show that gratitude practices increase activity in brain regions related to moral cognition, empathy, and reward processing. More importantly, they decrease activity in the default mode network, the part of the brain involved in rumination and self-criticism. This means that even a brief gratitude practice can quiet the inner critic and redirect the mind toward a more positive adaptive stance. Within 12 hours, these repeated moments of gratitude begin to shift baseline mood and increase resilience. Sleep plays a crucial role in mindset as well. It's during sleep, particularly deep, slow-wave sleep, that the brain consolidates emotional experiences, regulates neurotransmitter level, and clears out toxic metabolic byproducts. One night of quality sleep can improve emotional intelligence, reduce anxiety, and enhance cognitive flexibility. Even a short afternoon nap has been shown to improve mood and decision-making. In the early hours of the day after a restful night, your mindset is more receptive to learning, less biased by negative emotion, and more aligned with forward-thinking goals. Nutrition also plays a powerful and immediate role in the neurobiology of mindset. Omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, magnesium, and antioxidants directly support the synthesis and function of mood-regulating neurotransmitters. On the flip side, diets high in sugar and processed foods increase inflammation in the brain, which has been linked to depression and cognitive decline. A single meal rich in anti-inflammatory, brain-boosting nutrients can begin influencing neurochemical pathways within hours. Improvements in mental clarity, focus, and optimism are not just possible, they're measurable with brain imaging and blood markers. Social can also recalibrate mindset quickly. Engaging in a meaningful conversation, offering kindness, or receiving support triggers the release of oxytocin, a neuropeptide associated with trust and bonding. Oxytocin reduces stress hormone levels and increases feelings of safety and well-being. These biochemical changes influence how you see the world, shifting from threat sensitivity to opportunity sensitivity. Just one positive social interaction has the power to reorient your internal narrative and activate more constructing think patterns. Exposure to nature is another fast-acting mindset reset. In time in green or blue environments reduces mental fatigue, enhances creativity, and improves overall cognitive functioning. Natural settings lower blood pressure, reduce cortisol, and stimulate alpha brainwave activity, associated with calm alertness. Within minutes of immersion in nature, people report elevated mood, clearer thinking, and an increased sense of perspective. The brain responds quickly to the sensory input of the natural world, recalibrating attention systems and emotional regulation circuits. The brain is always listening and responding. It doesn't wait for permission or a perfect moment to change. Whether through movement, mindfulness, sleep, food, social connection, or nature, every input you give your brain is a key can initiate a shift in mindset. The patterns that define your internal world are not set in stone. They are dynamic, and they begin to reorganize the moment you send them a new signal. Certainly, here is a 700-word expansion of a Keynote 6. Every major transformation starts with a small window of action. Rewritten the tone of DrWilliamLi without any headings or ending statements. As you requesting, we tend to think of transformation as something that happens gradually, unfolding over months or years, requiring major effort, long-term discipline, and a grand plan. While those elements have their place, what often gets overlooked is how nearly every profound change, biologically, mentally, emotionally, or behaviorally, starts in a small, often overlooked window of action. That window can be as brief as 12 hours. A shift in momentum doesn't wait for the perfect schedule, the right motivation, or the final piece of knowledge. It begins the moment you decide to act, even in a small way. And the body and brain respond far faster than we usually give them credit for. In biology, this principle is seen clearly. The body is not on a delay when it comes to receiving inputs. If you switch from a highly processed diet to a whole food meal, within a few hours your blood sugar begins to stabilize, insulin sensitivity improves, and inflammatory markers start to decrease. The cardiovascular system becomes more relaxed. Your microbiome begins shifting its population, and your gut lining initiates repair processes. The decision to eat differently at breakfast or skip late night snacking the night before is a small act, but it sends immediate signals throughout the body that recalibrate your physiology. In neuroscience, we know that neurons fire in response to experience and thought in milliseconds. When you engage in a new behavior, whether it's a walk or meditation, a journal entry, or even a simple act of kindness, your brain begins to rewire. Neural pathways related to motivation, emotional regulation, and self-control activate and strengthen. Repeated action reinforces those connections, but the shift starts with a single choice, a short window of movement in the direction of something better. Your brain doesn't ask if the change is permanent. It responds to the signal that you're doing something different right now. The immune system, often seen as a reactive force, is highly responsive to moment-by-moment conditions. A short bout of exercise, even just 20 minutes, triggers an anti-inflammatory response. Mindful breathing lowers levels of stress hormones that suppress immune function. Choosing to fast for 12 hours overnight gives your immune cells time to regenerate and recalibrate. These responses are not theoretical, they are measurable. The window of transformation opens not when conditions are ideal, but when you choose to align your actions with healing and metabolic health. Timing matters. Your metabolic rate, glucose control, and fat-burning capacity are influenced not just by what you eat. Time-restricted dating, even on the first day, begins to shift your metabolic profile. The body starts using fat stores for energy more efficiently. Cellular repair pathways like autophagy are initiated. Your body interprets the break in food intake as a chance to clean up and restore balance. That process doesn't wait for weeks of repetition. It begins within the first 12 hours. The same pattern is found in emotional health. A single moment of presence, of choosing to respond rather than react, begins to rewrite the emotional script you've been following. Taking 10 minutes to breathe deeply and reflect instead of scrolling through anxiety-inducing headlines or reacting impulsively starts to shift your nervous system out of fight or flight and into a parasympathetic rest and digest state. From that state, your decisions improve, your thoughts become clearer, and your capacity for resilience grows. The emotional transformation doesn't start with an overhaul. It begins with a window of intentional calm on a cellular level. The entire body is structured for immediate feedback. Cells communicate through signaling molecules that respond to environmental cues. Hormones, neurotransmitters, cytokines, and growth factors don't need days to act. They respond within minutes, and their collective activity defines how you feel, how you heal, and how you age. By shifting the signals you send to your body, even for a few hours, you begin altering the cellular environment. Whether you're reducing sugar intake, standing up and moving your body, getting sunlight in the morning, or choosing to hydrate instead of reaching for caffeine, those micro decisions begin to stack into a transformation cascade. Its psychological momentum is perhaps one of the most powerful outcomes of a small window of action. It only takes a few hours of following through on your intention, of doing the things you said you would do, for your self-perception to shift. You begin to trust yourself more. You start to see evidence that change is not only possible but already happening. That internal momentum builds confidence, which fuels more action, which then reinforces the belief that you are capable of transformation. The cycle begins with one day or even just half of one in human performance. Elite athletes, high-performing professionals, and even patients in recovery all follow the same principle. They don't wait to feel ready. They initiate change through structure and repetition, knowing that the body and brain will follow. It's not willpower that gets them started. It's structure and action within a tight window of time that builds consistency. And over time, that consistent becomes identity, whether you're healing from illness, building a new habit, or overcoming a setback. The idea that transformation is a distant goal can be paralyzing, but when you understand that every major shift begins a short window of aligned action, often as little as 12 hours, you stop waiting and start moving. The body is listening, the mind is ready, and the systems that govern your health and performance are always on standby, waiting for your next signal.